Welcome back to our ongoing examination of the Gospel according to Matthew. We find ourselves at chapter 26 and verses 31 and 32. I will be reading from the Weymouth translation. Then said Jesus, "This night all of you will stumble and fail in your fidelity to me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered in all directions." Zechariah 13:7. But after I have risen to life again, I will go before you into Galilee. In these two verses, Jesus delivers a sucker punch. A sucker punch is where a person gets walloped without preparation. If you've ever seen a boxing match, you understand that more or less the boxers always have their hands in front of their face and head, and that they do not, as it were, carry their hands down at their side. Well, why is it they put their hands up here? Because they are in a defensive posture, as it were. They know that their face and head is vulnerable to punching, and that if you take a good enough hit there, you can lose the bout right there. So you want to be protected, and you might be even crouched over a bit to try and provide that defensive posture to protect you from your opponent. In a sucker punch, what you have is a person attacking someone, and we think of the word punch, with a punch when that person is completely unprepared. And when you do that, you can create a devastating blow because that person is not mentally and physically ready to accept that. Whereas in the case of a boxer, they have prepared for that match. They have prepared physically so that their body can take a measure of abuse. And they are prepared in terms of defensive posture. Now, let us ask ourselves, what is the church in danger from? Now, we could throw out a number of things, but in here I will say one of the great dangers to the church is naivety. Now, let us be clear what we mean and what we do not mean. A person who is inexperienced is naive. So we could take two people who have recently announced their engagement, who have never been married, never been in a long-term relationship besides this. They are now embarking on plans for their wedding and starting to discuss plans about their marriage. This couple cannot begin to understand the forces that will impact and shape their marriage. You see, the reality is that once you make that commitment to be married and go into marriage, it's not about the relationship per se. There are all sorts of things that you cannot control: employment, illness, in-laws, social conditions, economic conditions. There's all sorts of these things that impact your marriage. Obviously, when a couple says they're going to get married, we understand that they believe they are in love. But a marriage is not going to work because these people are in love. The marriage is only going to survive and thrive and work because people will work through all these other things that will impact their marriage. The lack of experience in marriage means an inability to fully grasp and understand what they are getting in. This form of naivety is not what the church is in danger from. Yes, we have people who come to faith and are new to the faith and are naive in that sense of inexperience. Now let's throw out a second couple. They work at the same department in a major international corporation. The relationship began in a casual bantering in the office. Somewhere they crossed paths, maybe at an office party, and then somewhere again, things got a little bit more serious because they were on a business trip together, and one thing leads to another, and before you know it, this couple who are married to other partners are in an adulterous affair. Hot, heavy, and passionate sexual experience. What this couple decides to do is to divorce each other, divorce their spouses, and decide to marry one another. And when the respective divorces are finalized, they will marry each other. The naivety of this couple is of the more dangerous type. In this case, they are not looking at things for what they are. They are believing that an adulterous relationship can be transformed into a committed long-term relationship. You can look at statistics, and the reality is this type of relationship is doomed to fail over the long term. And it's not really all that surprising because there is something within that relationship that is unique and not lasting. It is of the excitement, it is of the sexual tension, sexual experience, so on and so forth, which is not real and germane to the type of relationship that needs to sustain a marriage over the long term. So these people might think they are in love and in love with each other and will divorce their present spouses, but they're entering into a relationship that is completely doomed to fail. You see, to be naive to the reality does not lessen the impact of that reality. You can say, yes, it will work, but we understand statistically these type of relationships do not work. Life is such that being naive in the second sense sets you up to fail, to be, as it were, sucker punched. In the church, we are in danger of the second form of naivety. We want to believe in ideas about the truth, about the faith and the world that are not rooted and grounded in reality. So let me offer up a few of these. Christians do not suffer. There is no real cost to serve Jesus. The church is one big happy family. The church can be all things to all people and still remain true to the gospel. You see, there is a real danger when what we hold to as the faith is a caricature of the faith. When we take out, as it were, only the good things out of the Bible. The apostles felt that Jesus must be triumphant and that the world would now respect them. The apostles were blind to the reality of evil and the cost of salvation. In the church, it is not enough to lay claim to the faith if it is a shadow of the real. We, in that case, are setting up people to be sucker punched by the forces of evil and of the demonic in the world around